When our mother died, my younger brother manipulated her will and took everything in the house, the savings, even Dad's old watch. I was left with nothing but questions and rage. But just as I planned to fight back, I uncovered a dark family secret hidden for decades, one that made me question everything about who I was. My name's Ethan Carter, I'm 41 years old, and I used to think I knew my family. That illusion shattered the day we buried our mother. It was raining that morning in Asheville, North Carolina, the kind of fine mist that soaks into your skin and bones without you realizing it. Mom had died 3 days earlier, stroke in her sleep, they said. Peaceful. But nothing about that week felt peaceful. The funeral was modest, just like Mom would have wanted. About 20 people, mostly neighbours and a couple of her bridge club friends. But my eyes kept drifting to my younger brother, Josh, 36, smart as hell in his tailored black suit, barely hiding the Rolex on his wrist. I hadn't seen him in over a year, not since Mom's 70th birthday when we had a shouting match over, of all things, landscaping. He called me a cheap bastard because I wouldn't pitch in for a $5,000 gazebo she never asked for. After the service, Josh pulled me aside. She left everything to me, he said. At first, I thought he meant the funeral arrangements. I blinked. What? He repeated it. The house, the bank accounts, everything. She changed the will last year, said she didn't trust you to manage it. My heart dropped like a brick. Oh. He handed me a folded legal document from his coat pocket, damp from the rain. I read it shaking. It was legit. A signature. Dated May 14, 2024. One beneficiary, Joshua Carter. I gripped the paper so tight my knuckles went white. Why would she do that? She always said the house would be split. Josh shrugged. Maybe because I was the one who visited. You only called on birthdays, Ethan. That's not true, I snapped. I sent money every month, paid half her medical bills last winter. Josh leaned in closer, his breath reeking of mint and arrogance. Yeah, and maybe that's what she didn't like. She didn't want your guilt cash, she wanted a son who showed up. I walked away before I did something stupid. But the seed was planted. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying our mother's voice in my head, the way she always said, "You boys will share everything when I'm gone." She wasn't the type to change her mind lightly, especially not about family. So why would she suddenly cut me out? The next morning, I got up early and drove to her old house, our childhood home on Hillcrest Drive. I still had a key. Josh had already changed the locks. But the neighbour, Mrs. Langley, a kind old woman with a sharp tongue, was out in her garden. She told me something strange last year, she said, handing me a cup of black coffee. Said she was keeping a secret, something that might ruin a family if it ever got out. I stared at her. Did she say what it was? She shook her head. No, but she seemed scared, said she was thinking about telling you, not Josh, just you. A knot formed in my gut. What the hell was my mother hiding from us? That same afternoon, I drove straight to Macon County Courthouse to request a copy of the will, the original document filed with the probate court. The clerk, a young woman with chipped purple nails and tired eyes, pulled it up within minutes. Yep, she confirmed. Amended May 14, 2024, witnessed by 2 neighbours, your brother included. My eyebrows shot up. Wait, Josh was one of the witnesses. Looks like it, she said, sliding the copy across the counter. That's not illegal, but it's shady. I left with a pit in my stomach and a paper burning in my hands. That signature, it was her handwriting. But the date bugged me. May 14th was Mom's birthday. She would have been 71 that day. Something about that didn't sit right. Back at my rented motel, I pulled out an old shoebox I had brought from my apartment in Charlotte, a box filled with birthday cards and old notes from Mom. I found last year's birthday card from her, dated the exact same day as the will, May 14, 2024. But here's the thing, the signature on the card didn't match the one on the will. Her cursive had always been soft and slanted. The one on the will was stiff, shaky, like someone had tried too hard to imitate her style. I knew what I was looking at. A forgery. Or at least a false signature. I called Josh. No answer. Texted him. We need to talk. No. His reply came 15 minutes later. Let it go, Ethan. You'll only make things worse for yourself. That wasn't a denial. Fueled by caffeine and suspicion, I drove back to Hillcrest Drive after midnight. This time, I didn't go to the front door. I hopped the fence and snuck around to the back, where the old basement window still had a busted lock is something I remembered from when we were kids sneaking in after curfew. The place hadn't changed much inside. Same beige carpet. Same creaky stairs. I moved through the dark with my phone flashlight, careful not to trigger the motion sensors Josh probably had installed. Then I reached the basement. The air was damp, cold, thick with mildew and memories. I searched through the old cabinets, file boxes, even Mom's sewing chest. Nothing until I noticed a loose floorboard under the washer. I pried it open with a screwdriver. Inside was a Ziploc bag. Inside the bag, a small red velvet pouch. Inside the pouch, a flash drive. And a note in Mom's handwriting. For Ethan, if anything happens to me before I can tell you the truth, start with this. Trust no one else. My heart pounded so loud I was sure the neighbours would hear. I left immediately, heart racing, drive jittery. Back at the motel, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. Only one file. A video, dated May 12, 2024, 2 days before her birthday. Mom sat in her kitchen, visibly shaken, speaking into the camera. "Ethan," she said, voice trembling, "if you were watching this, it means I didn't have time to fix what your brother has done, and it means you deserve to know who you really are." She paused. Then she said 8 words that knocked the breath out of my lungs. "Josh isn't just your brother, he's your father." I stared at the screen in total silence, barely breathing. The air in the motel room felt thick, like I was suffocating under the weight of those 8 words. Josh isn't just your brother, he's your father. That didn't make any sense. Josh was only 5 years older than me. We used to fight over toys. He taught me how to ride a bike. He punched me in the face when I was 12 because I broke his Walkman. That man, that smug bastard in the Rolex, was now supposedly my father? I replayed the video, fingers shaking. Mom continued, eyes red and puffy. "It was a mistake, one I've carried for over 30 years. I was 24. Josh's father had just died in a car crash. You never met him. We were both grieving, and I was weak. I wasn't thinking clearly, but it happened." She looked away, disgusted with herself. "And when I realized I was pregnant, I told everyone it was another child with my late husband. Even Josh believed that for a while, but after you were born, he started asking questions. He knew, somehow. He always knew, and when he turned 30, I told him the truth." The video froze for a moment. I clicked to unpause. "He's held it over me ever since, threatened to tell you, to destroy the family. So I gave him things to keep him quiet and money, help with his real estate business, even the house. In the end, I didn't want this to be a burden." My mind raced. It couldn't be real. There was no way. But the timeline fit. Josh was born in 1983. I was born in 1988. That made me his son. I slammed the laptop shut, nausea clawing at my gut. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't make a sound. At 2:47 a.m, I drove again, and not to Josh's house, but to my childhood home. I had to confront him. I didn't knock. I banged on the front door like a madman until the porch light flipped on. Josh opened the door, shirtless, blinking. "What the hell are you?" "You slept with Mom," I hissed. "You got her pregnant, me. I'm not your brother, I'm your son." His face went blank. Then he exhaled like he'd been holding in that truth for years. "So she finally told you." I stepped back, dizzy. "You knew?" "I've always known," he said calmly. "She told me the day I turned 30, said it was her biggest regret, but she still protected you, always chose you over me." "You're insane," I snapped. "You manipulated her will, you stole everything." "I took what should have been mine." He cut me off, suddenly cold. "You think she earned that house on her own? That money came from my real estate deals. She used my name on her accounts. I was the one paying for her to live after Dad died." "That's a lie." "No, it's the truth you don't want to hear." He stepped closer, voice lowering. "She was a mess, Ethan. You just didn't see it. You were the golden child, the precious secret. I was the one who got left with the guilt and the silence." I clenched my fists. "You're not just a liar, you're a monster." "And what are you?" he said with a smirk. "The son of your mother and your own brother. Tell me, Ethan, who the hell does that make you?" The room spun. I turned and walked away, afraid of what I'd do if I stayed. As I got into my car, one thought cut through the noise in my head. If Mom kept the secret, what else was she hiding? I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. By sunrise, I was sitting in the parking lot of First Carolina Bank, gripping a cup of gas station coffee and the flash drive like it might burn a hole in my palm. There had to be more. If Mom had hidden that secret, there was no way she left just one clue. Back in the motel room, I tore through the video again, this time frame by frame. Around the 8-minute mark, just before she signed off, Mom reached behind her and held up a white envelope. "I've set aside an account in your name. You'll find the key in my sewing box, wrapped in a yellow thread. The account's not in the will. I couldn't risk Josh finding it. The bank manager's name is Louise Parker." I scrambled to my car, heart pounding, and sped to the house again, and now practically breaking with how smoothly I was getting past Josh's half-baked security. The sewing box was still there in the basement, tucked beneath a dusty stack of photo albums. Wrapped in a bundle of old yellow thread, I found a small brass key with a bank logo on the tag. The teller at First Carolina looked confused until I asked for Louise Parker. She came out of a back office, late 50s, grey pixie-cut alert eyes. When I showed her the key and told her my name, her whole posture changed. She led me into a private room. "She said you might come," Louise whispered, unlocking a safety deposit drawer and sliding it out. Inside, a leather band folder, a birth certificate, and a handwritten letter addressed to me. I opened it with trembling hands. The scent of Mom's lavender lotion clung to the pages. "Ethan, if you're reading this, then it means I failed to tell you the truth in time. I never wanted this life for you, a life built on my worst mistake. But I also know you deserve to understand everything." She went on to describe how, after I was born, She tried to move to Georgia, away from the rumours that started swirling in Asheville. But then Josh came back, a wealthier, called her and offered to help her financially. I let him buy his way back into our lives, she wrote. But he never wanted you to know the truth. You were always too good, too kind. He hated that, and when I told him I was going to come clean on your 36th birthday, he threatened me. She ended the letter with a line I'll never forget. Josh didn't just change the will, he made me sign it. He said if I didn't, he'd tell the world the truth, not just about you, but about something far worse. Worse. I flipped through the rest of the documents, birth records, financial statements, and a hospital bill for March 1999 for a girl named Claire Ann Carter, age 11. I didn't recognize the name, but the patient info listed her as a dependent of Margaret Carter, my mother, and the father is unknown. There was no record of the school ever living with us. No photos. No birthday cards. Had Mom had a daughter? My hand shook as I googled her name on my phone. After a few dead ends, I found a death certificate. Claire Ann Carter. Died March 23, 1999. Cause of death, blunt force trauma. I felt my chest cave in, but it was the police report summary that stopped my heart. Initial investigation found insufficient evidence. Family refused to comment. Suspect, none named. Case closed due to lack of cooperation. The last line made me drop the phone. Primary witness, Joshua Carter, age 16. That bastard had been there when she died. And Mom never told me I had a sister. Well, that she died under suspicious circumstances. I spent the next 2 days combing through everything I could find on Claire Ann Carter. School records, archived yearbooks, obituaries, anything. She was real. Born in 1988, just 4 months before me. That meant we were twins or close enough. Only no one in our family had ever mentioned a sister. Not once. There were no photos of her in the house, not even in the old albums I'd flipped through my entire childhood. It was as if she'd been deliberately erased. I finally tracked down one clue that hadn't been scrubbed from existence, an old third-grade class photo from Sunset Ridge Elementary School, dated 1997. Second row, fifth from the left, a small girl with pale blonde hair, huge eyes, and a shy smile. She looked exactly like Mom, and maybe a little like me. I stared at that photo for hours, and then I made a decision. I needed answers, and only one person could give them. Josh. But this time, I wasn't walking in angry and blind. I needed him cornered. I needed leverage. So I went to Detective Maria Lopez, retired now, but she'd been the lead officer on Claire's case. She lived just outside Asheville in a modest brick house with peeling shutters. It took a bit of convincing to get her to talk, but once I mentioned Josh's name and showed her the documents, her guard dropped. I remember that case, she said, eyes narrowing. I knew something was off. That boy, your brother, he was evasive as hell. Your mother begged us to close it, said it was an accident. Said Claire fell. Do you believe that? I asked. No, she said flatly. But without cooperation, we had nothing. She reached for a folder from a dusty cabinet and slid it across the table. Inside was a copy of a sales report. Child Protective Services had been called to the house twice in the late 90s for suspected domestic endangerment. One of those reports was dated March 20, 1999, just 3 days before Claire died. I could barely hold the paper. Back in the car, I called Josh again. This time, he picked up on the first ring. You're digging too deep, he said. Walk away, Ethan. You killed her, I whispered. Did Mom know? There was a long pause. Then his voice dropped, low and controlled. You really think I'd still be walking around if I had? I don't think, I said. I know, and I have her letter. Another pause. This one longer. Tighter. She never wanted you to know about Claire. I warned her what would happen if she told you, and now look where we are. Where are we, Josh? I snapped. At the part where you explain how you managed to keep your little incestuous empire from collapsing, or the part where I hand this to the cops. He chuckled softly. Go ahead, blow it up. You think they'll believe you? A man who just found out his brother's his father, threatening to expose a decades-old case with no physical evidence. You'll burn with me, Ethan. I clenched my jaw. But then he said something I hadn't expected. You're not the only one who had something taken. She lied to me too. She promised she'd protect both of you. Then she tried to erase my daughter from the family. My breath caught. What are you talking about? He paused. And then, in a voice so cold it could have frozen time, he said, Claire wasn't your sister, Ethan. She was your twin, but she was my daughter. I couldn't speak. My mouth opened, but no sound came out. I was gripping the steering wheel so hard my fingers had gone numb. Claire, my twin sister, was also Josh's daughter. You're lying, I finally choked out. No, a Josh reply, calm as death. Your mother knew the truth. She didn't tell you because she was ashamed. She wanted to pretend Claire was yours and not mine, but she was never yours, not really. I blinked in confusion. What does that even mean? She wasn't your full sister, he said. Your mother was pregnant with twins, but she got scared of what people would think. of what you would become if you knew, so she tried to hide it, gave Claire up for a while to some distant cousin, got her back when she was 3. I didn't even meet her until then, but I knew. I could see it in her face. She was mine. I wanted to throw up. So what happened in 1999? I whispered. Why did she die? Josh didn't answer right away. She got curious. He said eventually. Started asking questions about who her dad was, about why she wasn't allowed to talk to certain people. I told her to stop, but she had your mom's stubbornness. His voice broke just slightly, enough for me to hear it, even if he didn't want me to. She ran, he continued. Out into the road during a fight. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. I sat frozen in my car, parked outside an abandoned Piggly Wiggly, trying to process the horror he had just casually dropped into my lap. An accidental death, but caused by fear, manipulation, family secrets. Your mom blamed me, Josh said. So I told her if she ever breathed a word about Claire again, I'd destroy everything, the house, the money, you. My throat tightened. That's why Mom changed the will. That's why she looked so haunted in the final months. She wasn't just afraid of Josh, she was protecting me from finding out what I was. A walking monument to incest. The ghost of a broken secret. And yet something still didn't add up. If Claire was your daughter, I asked, voice shaking, then why did you say Mom betrayed you? Why act like you were the victim in all of this? Josh let out a bitter laugh. Because she promised me a new will, one where I got everything, all of it. She said it was the least she could do. I froze. What? She changed her mind right before she died, he muttered. Said she wanted to leave it all to you, said she was ready to come clean. That's why I made her sign the one I brought. She was weak. I just made her see reason. Or you threatened her. Same thing, he said, voice sharp. She owed me that much, after what she let happen to Claire. I hung up. I sat in that parking lot until dusk, letting it all sink into the twisted tree of our bloodline, the tangled mess of guilt and betrayal, the death of a sister I never knew I had, and a father who had always pretended to be a brother. I didn't want revenge. Not really. I wanted justice. So I made a plan. First, I emailed everything, the flash drive video, the letter, the bank records to Detective Lopez. She didn't reply immediately, but I got a one-line message 3 hours later. I'm in, meet me tomorrow, 9 a.m. Then I took it one step further. I called Josh again. This time I hit record. You destroyed Mom, I said. He stole everything, and now the truth's coming out. Ethan, he warned. You don't know what you're starting. Oh, I do, I replied. And I'm not starting it alone. I ended the call. 30 seconds later, my phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. It was a photo. Josh standing in front of a lawyer's office in Charlotte, the same one that had handled Mom's estate. The caption read, "Don't push me, you'll lose more than you think." My jaw clenched. He was bluffing. Unless there was still one last thing he hadn't told me. What else had Mom planned to change before she died? I met Detective Lopez the next morning at 9:00 a.m. sharp at Sunset Cafe, a quiet diner tucked between a used bookstore and a boarded-up pharmacy on the edge of Asheville. She was already there, sipping bitter coffee and flipping through the folder I dropped off the night before. "This is the oddest family tree I've ever seen," she muttered as I slid into the booth. "You're telling me," I sighed. "There has to be something more. Josh sent me a photo last night of him outside the lawyer's office. He's planning something." She leaned back, eyes narrowing. "You sure you didn't already do something?" That was when it hit me, the original will. The one Mom promised to change. The one where she finally left everything to me. What if she did manage to change it? I said, heart kicking into overdrive. What if there's a second will? Lopez stared at me, then nodded slowly. "Then we need to talk to her lawyer now." We drove across town to Marston and Dell, the small law firm that had handled Mom's estate. I'd been there briefly after her death, but Josh had already done most of the legal legwork, or so I thought. Lopez flashed her old badge, and the receptionist turned pale. 5 minutes later, we were sitting with Richard Dell, a soft-spoken man in his 60s who looked like he'd aged 5 years just hearing my name. "I was wondering when you'd show up," he said. "Your mother came to me in April and said she wanted to update her will." My breath caught. "She brought the new draft," he continued. "Removed Josh completely, left everything house, bank accounts, even her jewellery to you," she was adamant. "Then why wasn't it filed?" I asked. "She scheduled a final appointment for May 16, he said. 2 days after her birthday. She died on May 14. Josh knew. Somehow, he knew she was going to change it and forced her hand early. That's why he brought the version he wanted and had her sign it under pressure. "Do you still have the new draft?" Lopez asked. Dell nodded. "Unfiled, but dated, signed just missing witness signatures. It's still legally challengeable if we can prove duress in the existing will." I exhaled, tension releasing like a slow bleed. "We can prove it." I handed him the flash drive, the video, the letter, the timeline. Lopez chimed in, "And we have new cause to reopen Claire Carter's case based on this. We can get a subpoena and open up the full case file." Dad leaned forward, voice quiet but electric. You do this, your brother will go down, and if he goes down for forgery, coercion, and hiding a death, that's prison. I'm ready, I said. 2 weeks later, Josh was arrested outside a luxury steakhouse in Charlotte, still dressed in a $1,000 suit, hands cuffed in front of his horrified fiancée. Forgery, coercion, obstruction in a 25-year-old death investigation. The news broke all over North Carolina media. Real estate mogul Joshua Cotter accused of forging mother's will, linked to sister's mysterious death. And just like that, the facade crumbled. The bank account Mom had hidden was legally transferred to me, $189,000. Not a fortune, but more than I'd ever expected to have again. The house on Hillcrest Drive was mine now. I didn't move in. I couldn't. Too many ghosts. But I kept it. I even planted a white dogwood in the backyard, under the old swing set. I buried Claire's photo beneath it. It was the only grave she ever had. The court battle dragged on for months, but eventually the judge ruled the revised will valid enough to override the coerced version. Josh lost everything. In his final letter through his lawyer, he wrote only this: She was ours, but you got everything, again. I burned the letter without opening the rest. Because in the end, this wasn't about money. It was about the truth. And justice. Even if it came decades too late.